have to pay the piper first. And this is a Father's Day sermon of sorts. This one is to our Father above. One of the most important things in a believer's life, according to believers, is joy. However, it seems as if far too few believers are living in joy these days. It seems as if we're just barely getting by and going through the daily motions of life. We were meant for much more than this. But more is coming. As I said before, we were meant for so much more than this. Let's find the key to experiencing joy. True joy. True joy is a gift from Elohim. In Scripture, we see that it is one of the fruits of the Spirit. Drop anchor at Galatians, the 5th chapter, the 22nd verse. You will see there. But the fruits of the Spirit are love. Note that second one there. Joy. Peace. Long-suffering. Kindness. Goodness. Faith. Meekness. So many misunderstand what that word means. I came across a definition this week that said it was a quiet strength, like a horse drawing a carriage. That horse would tear that carriage apart if he wasn't trained to pull it. He has all the strength to tear it apart, but what would that do for himself? Nothing. He knows that. Are we no more than mules? Meekness. Notice this next one. Self-control. Kindness, goodness, faith, meekness, self-control. Against such things there is no law. Paul is not saying here that there is no law, as some say he is. But when you are not breaking the law, there is no law coming against you. That's the difference. Joy comes from believing Elohim, belonging to his kingdom, and knowing Yeshua indeed is your Messiah and sovereign, or king or master. That word sovereign, I've heard it used a lot, but not in this tradition. I'm changing this tradition. It's a useful word. So many doubt this because they are so caught up in the fleeting and untoward pleasures of this fallen world. While Paul was in prison, he wrote a letter to the Philippians, and he told them to rejoice always. How could Paul say such a thing while he was stuck in prison with the possibility of being martyred? It is because the source of his joy was not his surroundings. The source of his joy was Yeshua the Messiah in his relationship with him. Messiah was victorious on the stake, or the upright pale, some say cross in error. There were a lot of errors, some of them in the book itself, and some of them in our own minds, because we couldn't stand the truth. I won't go too far down that road because that's a long road and I've got so much time. Messiah was victorious over the stake, and now he is living inside believers in spirit. Our victorious Messiah is living inside us, and he will never leave us. Messiah is the reason why we can smile through the pain. The more we know and read about the coming kingdom of Messiah, the coming kingdom is the reason why we can give Elohim praise in our trials instead of dwelling on our problems. Dwell on Messiah Yeshua, who is the solution to most of our problems. Remember, he came back from the dead, the first fruits from the Father. And if we continue in his pathway, we will do the same. That's what he was there for. Continuing in Philippians, the 4th chapter, the 5th verse. Let your gentleness be known to all men. The master is near. Do not worry at all, but in every matter, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, let your requests be known to Elohim. And the peace of Elohim, which surpasses all understanding, shall guard your hearts and minds through Messiah Yeshua. For the rest, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is righteous, whatever is clean, whatever is lovely, whatever is of good report, if there is any uprightness, and if there is any praise in these, think on these. The deeper we get into our old sins, the deeper we feel the effects of those sins weighing down our lives. Don't do that. That stuff was supposed to be left in the waters of your baptism. Don't think about that stuff anymore. That's what he was on that stake to cleanse you of. Cleanse yourselves of it. Those things weigh down our lives as if freshly done and active, which they are not. Don't dwell on the past. The world dwells on the past a little bit too much nowadays. Dredging up those sins brings shame, anxiety, emptiness, and sorrow. There is so much joy when we surrender our lives completely to Messiah Yeshua. There is such joy in obedience, not because we are trusting in our own merits, but many do, but because we are living in Elohim's grace. His grace is our daily strength. We were made to spiritually abide in him. And when we are not abiding in him, we feel and become weaker inside. Abiding in Messiah Yeshua entails various different things, such as depending on his grace, abiding in his love, not ours. We have to, at some point, realize that we are still enfolded in this stuff here, this flesh. Walking by faith, trusting him, cherishing his word, and being obedient to his word. They've said for years, this country is God's country. But the book says the seventh day, not the eighth or the first. And I don't mean to get into all of the twists that came up with an eighth day from a 7-day week, but they can come up with that on their own some other time. This is our time. There is great joy in this obedience because we, through the details borne out during the holy days, know of the intimate and great price that was paid for us on the stars or the stake. Turn to John, the 15th chapter, the first verse. John, the 15th chapter, the first verse. I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. And every one that bears fruit, he prunes it so that it makes it bear more fruit. And sometimes that's what's happening to us in those trials that we breeze through and complain about excessively. Verse 4, abide in me, and I in you. And the branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it remains in the vine. So neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me and I in him, the same brings forth much fruit. For without me, take note here, without me, you can do nothing. So many forget this fact, but don't forget that we are the branches. He is the tree. If anyone does not abide in me, he is cast out as a branch and is withered. And they gather and cast them into the fire, and they are burned. If you abide in me, and my words abide in you, you shall ask what you will, and it shall be done to you. In this my Father is glorified, that you bear much fruit, so you shall be my disciples. All of us. All of us. The two principal sexes. Now they're talking about three. I don't include that, but some people talking about that. I don't. Verse 9 again. As the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Continue in my love. Verse 10, and this is key. If you keep my commandments, you shall abide in my love, even as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. Continuing in Matthew, the 13th chapter, the 44th verse. Matthew, the 13th chapter, the 44th verse. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field, which when a man has found it, he hides it. And for the joy of it, there's that word again. For the joy of it, goes and sells all that he has and buys that field. This is how important this is to you. Some don't realize that yet, but they will soon. And I'm not putting a date on that. Soon. Verse 45. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant seeking great beautiful pearls, who, when he had found one pearl of great price, went and sold all that he had and bought it. If you don't feel this way about your salvation, read the book more. And if it doesn't have the same effect on you, read it yourself instead of someone else reading it for you. It's not the same. It really isn't. It'll bring you out of the troubles of this world and focus your mind on the kingdom to come as you know more about it. But it will not come all at once. If you're one of those quick people that everything has to come like that, it's not going to come to you. That. It's a lifetime endeavor. But the payoff will be endless and trouble-free. Our title today: The Father is forgotten in the modern world. The Father is forgotten in the modern world in every way. On television, of course. I go all the way back to Blondie and Dagwood with that one. You think I thought some thought I was going to go back to Married with Children or something like that. It started long before that. The Father is forgotten in the modern world. It started with Dagwood and Blondie. Dumbest man on television back then. And she always pulled his fat out of the fire. Somehow. Most people don't comprehend the planet without sin because they don't comprehend how a fatherless planet can go on tumbling through space without someone in charge that is really in charge. Most people on this sin-sick planet think life would be boring without sin. These people are so married to their sins of this fleshly age that they vividly imagine the boredom which would result without them. People jokingly say sometimes, "I'd rather be having a good time in hell than be bored to death in heaven." They are ignoring the biblical facts and imagining the hell of Dante's Inferno, which is a fictitious account. A fictitious account of a real place. It is not yet burning, but it is a real place in a specific and real location on this earth. In the Valley of Hinnom, notice this. Ahaz was the worst king of Israel ever. And he had the worst wife ever in Jezebel. Notice that the idea of hell was actually hatched by the Israelites while burning their children as a pagan ritual. Yahweh simply copied it for a form of punishment for his own purposes. It was going to be thrown away anyway. 2 Chronicles, the 28th chapter, the 1st verse. Back it up with the scripture if you're going to say it. 2 Chronicles, the 28th chapter, the 1st verse. Ahaz was 20 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. But he did not do right in the sight of Yahweh, like David his father. For he walked in the ways of the kings of Israel. Most of them strayed from God's path, Yahweh's path, and also made molded images of the Baals. And he burned incense in the valley of the son of Hinnom, and burned his sons in the fire, according to the abominations of the nations whom Yahweh had cast out before the sons of Israel. He did that because they were doing the same thing. And you took it up in their stead? Verse 4, and he sacrificed and burned incense in the high places and on the hills. They did that too. That's circumventally where the Christmas tree comes from. If y'all still think this is God's country, that's where the Christmas tree came from. He sacrificed and burned incense in the high places and on the hills and under every green tree. Why a tree? That's a whole other story to another day. And burned his children in the fire. This describes Ahaz's participation in the worship of Molech, the pagan god, or demon more accurately, Molech was worshipped in this way, by heating a metal statue representing their god, small g, until it was red hot, then placing a living infant on the outstretched statue, the hands of the statue, while beating drums to drown out the screams of the child until it burned in the interior of the statue. This was where the idea of hell came from. Yahweh had repeatedly told them not to follow these practices of these people, but they did it anyway. But if they don't ever stop, they will end up in similar circumstances themselves. Hell is a place of torment and isolation. For a human being, though, that'll last around 5 minutes tops. And that's it. The Valley of Hinnom, this term appears 13 times in 11 different verses as variant names. The Valley of Hinnom, Valley of the Son of Hinnom, or Valley of the Children of Hinnom. The Valley of Hinnom is the name in the modern vernacular of this valley surrounding Jerusalem's old city, including Mount Zion, from the west and south. It meets and merges with the Kidron Valley, the other principal valley around the old city of Jerusalem, near the southwestern city of the corner of the city. The name Gehenna is the one that we are most familiar with from this area. The New Testament area, anyway. This name Gehenna is not only a reference to the place of final punishment, but a figure drawn from the valley outside the gates of Jerusalem. In modern times, the Hinnom Valley holds the ruins of ancient tombs, and some of it is filled with rundown older homes. That's the area a lot of the Gaza is outside of that area. It is clear that in New Testament times, this was a place of fire, ashes, uncleanness, and at times, dead bodies. Hasatan has told everyone this lie about living forever in hell, burning. The truth is, the only one who will be burning for any length of time will be Satan himself. Notice this is just after the 1,000 years of cleansing for the earth is done. We know it as the 1,000-year reign of Yeshua, or the millennium. And after the reign is done, Satan will be released from his prison and immediately will gather an army of rebels. That's why he doesn't allow rebellion now. If you come against God, don't do it openly, rebelliously. I've seen people die instantly in the Bible and in real life. I don't name anybody because I won't do that. I have seen it. Don't rebel against the King of the universe or Elohim. Yahweh or Yeshua. And immediately he will gather an army of rebels to come against King Yeshua again. And the whole army will be vanquished. And Satan will be vanquished and thrown into hellfire until Elohim determines the time of his death. And he will die. Revelation, the 20th chapter, the 10th verse. And the devil who led them astray was thrown into the lake of fire and sulfur, where the beast and the false prophet were. You have probably got R, but that's another little lie of the dark one. They're gone and have been gone for 1,000 years by this time. And he shall be tortured day and night forever and ever. A more plausible view, according to the scriptures that say that Satan will die, is that the wicked will burn for a prescribed time period. Dwell on this when your troubles get you down. The end of sin and trouble. That will be a good day. The end of all sin and trouble. So thus, the compound expression forever and ever. The Bible mentions something twice. The Bible doesn't stutter. I do, but the Bible doesn't. It mentions something twice, it's there for a reason. So this compound expression, forever and ever. Forever and ever? That's kind of redundant. Something else is there. Let's find it. Ice tour. Aeon. Ton. And ion. I found it. Literally means unto the ages of the ages. Would express the idea that a punishment would be meted out. It would be measured against and according to a judgment process that the saints are made aware of and will carry out according to the dictates of Elohim Yeshua. At some time in the future, Hasatan will die. Everyone else is flesh and will die instantly in the fire that he starts with them in this valley of Hinnom, the place called in the modern vernacular Gehenna or hell. And he knows his time is running out. That's why things are getting worse and worse down here on earth right now. We have it in our minds that we have seen it all before. That we have seen very little in actuality. What are you going to do for 1,000 years, some say? If he hadn't figured all that out, as he says in other places, you can't even interpret the things that I'm telling you now about your own people. You can't imagine the things I'm saying to you. Boredom in the kingdom of God, huh? Any of you all have seen these commercials about the African kids with the cleft palates and such and all of that, and other facial distortions. One girl that had this goiter that was taken up as big as her face, hanging off her face, that kind of stuff. Imagine that you could wave your hand across their face and heal them. The Father has promised us that power in the kingdom to come. Matthew, the 9th chapter, the 35th verse. Matthew, the 9th chapter, the 35th verse. And Yeshua went around about all the cities and the villages, teaching in their synagogues and proclaiming the gospel of the kingdom and healing every sickness and every weakness of body among the people. And he left a little pearl there for us. If you think about this, you will be joyful. John, the 14th chapter, the 12th verse. John, the 14th chapter, the 12th verse. Truly, truly, I say to you, he who believes on me, that's someone that only believes on him, no, also believes on his word and follows his commandments. He who believes on me, the works that I do, he shall do also. And add this, and greater works than these he shall do. What can be greater than healing a person that you see sick? These are the kind of things that we're doing in the millennium. The forever time hasn't come yet. Even more will be done by then. By then, you will truly make full use of this spirit body. Right now, he hasn't even told you all the things that you will do with that body. The boredom gone yet? I can think of all kinds of things that we can do with those spirit bodies in a world that is no longer polluted by factories and exhaust and children killed every day by police, the people that the police can't find. You can't even, week later, and no one is in custody at all. Three scriptures capture the Father in his full glory. 1 Corinthians, the 8th chapter, the 6th verse. There is to us only one Yahweh, the Father, of whom are all things, and we in him, and one, Master Yeshua, Messiah, through whom are all things, and we by him. Ever since the stake, it all comes down to that upright bale, that stake, and our belief in it. Psalms, the 68th chapter, the 5th verse. In his holy dwelling, Yahweh is the father of the fatherless and the judge and protector of the widows. That was inserted out of the book, but it's in the original documents that way. In his holy dwelling, Yahweh is the father of the fatherless and the judge and protector of the widows. Isaiah, the 9th chapter, the 6th verse. For a child is born unto us, a son is given unto us, and the rule is on his shoulder, and his name is called Wonderful Counselor, Strong El, Father of Continuity, Prince of Peace. And we'll end this in Matthew, the 11th chapter, the 27th verse. All things are delivered to me by my Father, and no one knows the Son except the Father. And many in other parts of the country, this one and in the Middle East, don't want to know him either. Nor does anyone know the Father except the Son, and the one to whom the Son will reveal him. 1 John, the Baptist, or the baptizer. Verse 28, come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am meek. Remember that definition I gave you. That, not the world's definition. That one is too weak. That word is meek. That's the quiet strength. And lowly in heart, and you shall find rest to your souls. And my yoke is easy, and my burden is light, if you use it with this word intact. This word only intact. This way, anything that this world throws at you, you can throw it back hard enough to them. If they don't duck, it might kill them. And that's the Father that they don't even recognize anymore. I do, and I will continue to the point where everything else will go away, and that will not go away. And somehow, if we do it right, we will all hang on to it together wherever we are. And the rest of you fathers, enjoy your Father's Day.